Alright, peace family. You're tuning into the pro-black perspective on KWAZ radio. I'm your host, Onitaset Kumat, the author of the pro-black compendium and the Book of Power. And today we have several guests. That is IAmBlackEveryDay, as well as Zane, and hopefully Afrimac a little later on. But for now, I want to give you guys a question and a premise that I want to pose to the Africans worldwide, particularly the Pan-Africanist community, right? So I'm going to pull up this question, and hopefully everybody will be able to see and enjoy it. Hold on a second. I'm gonna share the screen with you guys too. Let's see. So this is it. So basically, the question is, So this is gonna. So it's called the Lesotho problem, right? And Pan-Africanists tend to say either get rid of Africa's borders, right? Have a borderless Africa, or change them from the Berlin Congress, right? From the Berlin Conference, right? So just change the borders, make a different kind of regions, right? But here's the thing with the Berlin Conference, or whatever happened in the course, whatever's happening, whatever led us up to 2020, is that Lesotho is a nation in Africa that's 99% Basotho, right? So basically, Lesotho is mono-ethnic. So the question now becomes, if we're getting rid of borders, or if we're changing borders, what happens to Lesotho, which is already a mono-ethnic state, And so should Lesotho lose its borders, and how so? And then, of course, what's this mean for other nations? So I'm going to try to stop sharing my screen. Let's stop streaming that. I'll show you this again. And then I'm going to switch over to the guests. And I don't know, I would like for them to at least introduce themselves so that, everybody at home can get a grasp of who these people are. So, all right, I'll ask Zane to introduce herself.
Okay, so I'm Zane. I'm originally from Senegal, but I live in America. So my perspective of all this border is like Lesotho should stay the same because they're all the same people. So we should keep that border the same. So if it's a
I would mostly ask you to introduce yourself. So, I was mostly asking that you introduce yourself, before we got into the questions, so that, IAmBlackEveryDay could also introduce himself. So, what was that your entire introduction?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So, IAmBlackEveryDay. What about you? Could you tell us about yourself?
How y'all doing? I am Black Everyday.
All right.
Born and raised in America. And I'm mostly self-taught. I love to read, love to dig into different concepts. I'm pretty open-minded, pretty accepting of most things as long as it's not detrimental to me or my people. And other than that, man, that's about it. And we can jump into the question whenever y'all ready.
Well, it looks like Afrimac just signed on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like Afrimac just signed on. So, Afrimac, would you introduce yourself for people who might not have heard you yesterday? Alright, so we can't hear you at all. So we can't hear you at all. So, while you get your mic fixed, maybe you have to just sign out and sign back in. But while you get that situated, like you said, so I guess Zane was really eager to jump into the.
Jump in.
Yeah. By the way, Afrimac, you jumped into the wrong chat. But okay. Anyway, you can't hear me. I'm talking to myself. Yeah. Okay, Afrimac, you're back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. You introduce yourself a little.
I'm Afrimac. I support Africa.
Okay, we can barely hear you.
I am the most pro-African.
All right. You guys can't hear him, right?
No.
Can you hear me?
No, you keep cutting
You're
out.
going in and out.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Let me try to figure this out. Keep going.
All right, cool. So, Zane, let us know. So you're saying Lesotho should keep its borders up?
Yes.
Okay.
So they should keep their borders, because like, what's the point of changing it if everybody basically is the same ethnicity?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, what does that mean? So you're suggesting that all of Africa should be separated into different ethnic states, or just Lesotho, or those that happen to have been done right?
So the ones that happen to be done right should remain the same, but the ones that you see that have like multiple different ethnicities and that's causing a conflict within the country should break down into smaller parts.
To smaller ethnic groups?
Yeah, basically it's going to be based on ethnic groups, but most, like where I'm from, Ptah is like multiple ethnic, but we still speak the same language. So, but the issue with that area is it's divided by the Senegalese River. So you have people like Ptah, the region is part in Senegal and the other part is in Mauritania. So those people should pick which side they want to be a part of. Should they be a part of the Senegalese side because we're more related to the Senegalese people, or should we remain on the Mauritanian side because that's where most of the central government, well, for the ethnic group was?
So let me ask you this then. So just to clarify, you said there's this ethnic group. So you believe that there should be another ethnic group carved out? Because it seems like you want to keep Mauritania and Senegal going, but you also don't want to keep it going.
Yeah, and the reason why is because the racial tensions that happen in Mauritania. So
yeah, but I mean the idea of getting rid of the borders would mean that there's no longer a Mauritania.
I mean, there could be. I mean, you can split the part that is like so basically, there's a heavily black population in Mauritania that's on one side of the country, and then the rest are Berbers and Arabs. You can combine Mauritania with Morocco, and then keep the southern part of Mauritania with Senegal.
So make a new country of a new ethnic.
We can have countries, but I think the borders where, like, okay, so a river should not be what keeps two ethnic groups separate. Like the borders should be.
You're saying it's the same ethnic group.
Yeah, it's the same ethnic group.
So why don't you just have a state for that ethnic group?
I mean, it is. It's basically Ptah, but that's only recognized by the people who live there.
Okay, so Ptah, if you say, right?
Yeah.
So would you advocate for ending Mauritania's rule over Ptah, right?
Yeah.
And having a Ptah that has a river cutting through it, like a separate state that has a river cutting through it.
Yeah. So
okay.
Basically, they just determined that, okay, these people that are on this side of the river, even though they're the same ethnicity as the people who are on the other river, have to be
in the same nation.
There.
But
yeah,
so, like
different nations.
Your idea.
Different nations.
I know, but your idea is that they should be in one nation.
Yeah, so
okay.
They need to either, because the reason why I say that is because there has been a lot of conflict between these people, well, by the government, due to the Mauritanian government.
Yeah, I know, but what we're talking about a situation of getting rid of the borders. So, talking about the borders, like the borders wouldn't be there if you're getting rid of the borders. So your idea is that we should put up borders, but around the different ethnic groups. And but just to clarify, you said that there were Arabs in Mauritania?
Yeah, I mean.
My question is this: you feel like those?
The government is basically Arab, like the government.
So my question is this:
majority of
Zane,
the people are black.
Yeah, my question is this: then, if do you believe that those Arabs should have borders themselves?
Yeah, that's why I said they.
So you think that Arabs should have some of Africa?
I mean, they're Berber Arabs, so yeah.
Okay.
They're people. They have been there in Africa as well as us. So I just feel like the borders basically need to be redrawn.
But where they have their own. Gotcha. All right, I'm Black Every Day. What were you thinking, and what do you think about what Zane just said?
I agree to a degree. But I feel that it's hard to completely like reevaluate without involving the whole continent.
Yeah.
So once you get the whole continent involved, it's like, I don't know, I feel like people would have to be willing to migrate and move and not just simply redraw lines, because it's not going to be as simple as just redrawing lines, you know what I mean? So it'll be a lot of moving pieces, and it'll be a little difficult to pull off. And the tension, man, as far as the tension, we just have to, start to harmonize with certain things within Africa. Certain people are there that are not leaving, and like you said, the Berber Arabs, I'm pretty sure they've been there for a long time. So I mean, you can't get them up out of there that simply. So again, I feel people, if we're gonna redraw, we have to also migrate, move, and try to set up situations where, northeast is this, northwest is this, south, east, west, so that way everybody can live within a harmony, peace state.
All right, so here's my question. So you agree with mono-ethnic states in Africa?
Personally, I would prefer there be no issue with ethnicity. I mean, everybody is a person, religion is religion. It shouldn't be no issue, but of course there is. So I think a mono-ethnic state would make it easier.
Hold on a second. When you say when you say personally you don't want ethnic states, so what does that mean in regards to the Lesotho question?
In regards to the Lesotho question, okay, they're all there together, right?
Well,
so
as far as I understand,
if any outsiders come in, how are they going to be able to commingle? Are they going to be accepted, or are they going to be shunned? Understand what I'm saying? I feel that we shouldn't shun each other due to ethnicity. Is that what I'm
So you feel like you feel like anybody and everybody should be entitled to Lesotho's land and resources, or the Basotho people's land and resources?
I feel the people that's been there, right? Anybody that wants to come and repatriate should be able to come to that land and be able to get into that land. Anybody that's a part of Africa that's been there from any part of Africa should be able to come to Lesotho and repatriate.
So why do you feel like you would be entitled to that part of Africa?
It's not an entitlement. If we're redrawing borders, again, we're trying to set up areas for people to harmonize with one another. With that same regard, there should be no problem with migrating more people here. Understand what I'm saying? So that means, like you said, if there's an ethnicity that's similar to that of those of Lesotho, they should be able to be allowed to migrate there and live and cope.
Wait, all right. So just to like, I'm trying to grasp this right now. So the Basotho have this land passed down from who knows how long, right? But they had it.
Understood.
They have it. Now you're saying that you feel like anybody and their mama could just show up and say, you know what, I want this ancestral land. Don't matter what you say. And they say, hey, look, I have a land claim because my ancestors, like when we say in America, we say our ancestors built this. No, in Basotho, their ancestors literally built this. You could see the burial. And
I'm not saying to strip them of their land. We're talking about working out.
But what if they don't want? What if they don't want you to come in? Then what?
Then we're at a issue of conflict, I guess, aren't we?
Okay.
I mean, I personally believe that
everybody should want
the way Africa has been drawn, raped, and ripped, right? The borders were European borders. As of now, if we're to come together as an Africa together, and we're deciding to make our own borders or say there's no borders. If that's the case, then the people, if they're not willing to participate, that is where the issue comes in. How are we supposed to work from there? Understand what I'm saying? And again, I want to present a reasonable situation. I'm not trying to strip nobody of their land or nothing like that. But again, if we're going to come together as a strong Africa, as us, the people, working together, then we need countries that are willing to build that strong Africa.
Well, let me ask you this right here. I just want to ask you this then. So you talk about harmonizing. Do you not think that a mono-ethnic state is harmonized?
I think a mono-ethnic state is harmonized, but we're talking about Pan-Africanism. That means the whole of Africa. If one mono-ethnic state is harmonized within the country or within the state, but not harmonized with the rest of the continent, how does that build harmony for the whole continent?
So, but that's the question. I was just about to ask Afrimac something, but I guess he dropped off. Okay, so let me try to engage this a little more then, a little further. Actually, no, Zane, what would you say about that?
I would say that if the mono-ethnic states, would be able to trade with other states. So it's not like where they're saying, oh, you can't come to this land. It's just saying that there's a boundary. Like if I'm going to go to Lesotho, if I'm going to go live there, right, I have to learn the Lesotho ways. I have to learn the Lesotho language, right?
Exactly.
In order for me to be, they're going to welcome me if I take initiative of learning their culture. So that's just saying, okay, this right now where you're entering to is Lesotho land. So you have to respect their customs, their traditions, their beliefs, and everything. So you can basically be assimilated into that society.
Exactly. And anybody else that's willing to accept their ethnicity and is with them, if they're willing to come in with the land. Now again, I get what you're saying about their ancestors built it. But it's up to the people if they're willing to accept these foreigners, these other Africans coming in and, living with them, co-harmonizing.
Okay, so that's pretty interesting. So Lesotho. So just to be clear, so you're saying IAmBlackEveryDay that Lesotho should lose its borders?
No. I'm not saying it should lose its borders.
Okay.
I'm saying that when we redo the borders, we need them to be receptive to either new people or expanding the borders or whatever the situation we may do. But we are also going to be respectful as respecting their custom.
So let me ask you this. Does this mean that Lesotho people will still have, like people in Basotho, the Basotho people will still have Basotho rule in what would be a new Lesotho in the same location?
Exactly.
All right, so just to be clear, so you're saying that you believe that every ethnic group should have self-rule?
Yeah, I don't see nothing wrong with that.
Okay. Now here's the question.
If the ethnic group,
here's the question then.
If the ethnic group, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So here's the question. You are, let's say, African American, right? Where's your ethnic group in Africa?
I don't have an ethnic group in Africa.
Okay, so you believe if you were to repatriate, what are your options?
My options would be to assimilate into the culture. That's the only options I have even now.
So you feel like exactly. So you feel like assimilation for the quote unquote African diaspora is to lose their identities.
I wouldn't lose.
And not
my
identity.
I would
lose your. All right. What word would you say it is? There you go. How about that? What would you say it is?
I would say I would be learning a new culture. If I move to Spain, right, and I stay exactly the way I am, how do I excel in Spain? If I don't never learn the language, if I never learn anything about how the city runs, how the laws run, or anything of that nature, do I get ahead? If I go to Africa, it's the same exact concept. How do I expand if I do not learn anything about Africa?
So
it makes no.
So to you, the African American experience is something to like. It's just an experience right now, but when you go to Africa, it's over. You gotta assimilate and just assimilate and lose it, and essentially.
It's not necessarily losing it. Again, so if we all go to Africa, right? Say we all go to Africa.
Well, I don't think everybody's going to Africa.
We learn,
but yeah.
We learn the country. We learn the culture, right? We are still aware of our former selves, meaning we can still set up shop within ourselves and still harmonize with the people there. We don't have to disrespect them. We don't have to do nothing disrespectful to them to still show that we still have our own culture, but we can respect theirs at the same time. Understand what I'm saying?
Actually, wait. Let me ask you this, because you said you're an African American. I wanna say this though. It doesn't seem like, as people in the diaspora, that we actually do keep our culture too much intact. And not just that. Because we, like, particularly in the West, we don't have educational systems that would teach us towards like what we formerly were, to the point where a lot of people, particularly in America, well, actually, I may be all over the African diaspora, but particularly in America, I guess, kind of believe that we started our history in in 16 something or 1860 sometimes.
When slavery started.
Yeah. So in that regard, what would you say about how the education should be taught? Like, do you feel like African American history should be strongly emphasized in a new Pan-African order, or wherever it is that you people go? I mean, wherever you go, like let's say you go to Lesotho, do you feel like African American history should be strongly emphasized, or like what is the situation there?
Okay, so that's a good question. That's a good question. I do believe I do believe that it should be African American. Just the same struggle we're having in the United States of America, teaching about black people. We shouldn't have that same struggle in school in Africa, in my personal opinion.
So you feel like,
I believe we should have.
So
we
you
should
feel like
have African American history within the curriculum, along with
like deeply emphasized, or just something referenced?
Nah, I would say history should be taught as history is, meaning that the people that were taken from these western areas in Africa were the people that were brought to the diaspora, and then there shall be studies on those civilizations in Africa and things like that. Like, these are the people that they came through and snatched up.
Mm-hmm. The reason why I ask,
we have these studies.
I want to clarify why I'm asking, because Lesotho is in like southern Africa, kind of on the eastern side, so it's really not too relevant for a Basotho, people to learn. So I don't know if it will be strongly emphasized. Now, if you happen to find yourself in Basotho, I don't see, or even like let's say you have you go to a Fulani ethno state, or a Yoruba ethno state, or what have you. If you find yourself in these ethno states, they have their own intricate and elaborate our stories, if you will. And the African American story, while interesting, is mostly interesting in the West, like particularly in America, or in the Western curriculum.
But particularly that's where we were supposedly taken from.
Well, you say Yoruba, so on and so forth, but not so much the Lesotho and let's say the Luo or what have you,
Yeah, exactly. Understood.
But like, if you say that anybody can go anywhere, I'm trying to figure out what that means in regards to like, if anybody goes anywhere, what does that mean in regards to you trying to maintain a cultural retention, in so much as it becomes like a side story in the African, like in the true African world, in the true African sense. But you know what? Before even you answer that, let's go to Zane. And Zane, what about you? Respond to that.
I mean, I think we should be able to travel anywhere we want.
Uh-huh.
I mean, in my opinion, if like where I'm from, it's multicultural. Even though everybody speaks Fulani, we still have Mende traditions.
Wait, hold on a moment. Let me ask you this, because you said multicultural or is it multi-ethnic or multicultural?
It's both.
Okay, so now would you support that state being torn apart into different mono-ethnic states?
No, because it's okay. So basically, the areas I'm speaking about, Fujitora, it's been a melting pot of different. So because we were part of the Ghana Empire, we were part of the Mali Empire. So it's been a melting pot of different cultures that has been fused together and called Tukulera.
Mm-hmm. Wait, but I mean, just to wait, because the reason why we're asking is this: how is it different from Nigeria?
It's different from in the sense is because you had different ethnicities that ruled. So you have the Fulani people, you have the Wolof people, you have the Mandinka people, you have the Soninka people that ruled.
Mm-hmm.
So over time, those peoples intermarried. Even though the language Pular stayed the same, we intermarried.
So all right, so
this new ethnicity called Tukulera.
But here's the question. So Nigeria has this group called the Igbo, right? And the Igbo, they wanted to secede from Nigeria and get the Biafra, right? It was a big conflict, a lot of wounds there. The question being, here you had Nigeria. It was, going through, its independence, and it got it, whatever. And then eventually the people were like, no, we want to have a separate state. So are you saying that you would squelch, or are you saying that if, let's say, the Soninka want to have that mono-ethnic state, right, that you would say, no, that's not, let's respect the Berlin Conference now, in essence?
If they want to have their own mono state, they can. It's called self-determination. I think everybody in Africa should have that. So, they should be able to. And I think the reason why they haven't been, or some different ethnicities haven't been, is because the part of the country that they're in has the resources. So, and it's the most profitable area. So of course the country and the foreigners like the French and the British are not going to let those countries basically secede. Like it's basically secession. They're not going to let them do that because it's not profitable for them.
Afrimac, is your mic working?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can definitely hear you.
Okay. Yes, so it looks like it's working now.
All right. I don't know what you heard, but you could respond to something.
I think it's just important to frame the discussion from a teleological perspective. So, what is the objective that we hope to get out of it? And if you say on its face, should we defend the Berlin Conference borders? The answer would be no. But at the same time, the states that exist today in Africa are not quite exactly the same borders as the Berlin Conference, because you've had, just different conflicts from an ethnic perspective, from a economic perspective, different geopolitical things have went down, and it's a little bit reactionary to say that everything that we have up to this point is completely the result of the adversary and no type of revolutionary social formation, especially within the independence era. I think it'd be blind to act as if Nkrumah also did not have a role within the creation of modern Ghana, or Lumumba not having a role in the creation of the modern DRC. The borders, as they are limiting because of the fact that mainly the economic and especially the military industry of these nations is still, in most cases colonial, But I think being constructive within this situation is using what we have at our disposal in order to build something greater, in order to build a higher level of unity. I think that's more logical than being reactionary and splitting different states into micro-states along ethnic lines, because all that'll do is, instead of you having a corrupt Nigeria, you'll have a corrupt Oduduwa, a corrupt Biafra, and a corrupt Arewa. You didn't actually solve the issue.
Yeah. So what do you say about this Lesotho problem?
In the sense of Lesotho wanting to keep their borders?
Yeah, being 99% Basotho already.
Lesotho can keep their border. Like, they can keep the lines that are drawn traditionally and the lines that are drawn locally certainly have to stand, in the same way that I would say, if the Igbo people want to carve something out for themselves and they have their own economic zone of trade, commerce, they should be allowed to do that.
So, but you just said something about the Biafra being, like, we might run into the same problem, or micro states.
Well, it's what is the objective? Because are we trying to create a federated state on a continental level? Are we following Nkrumah's model where the countries become states and the continent becomes a country? You kind of have to be specific about what we're talking about.
Well, that's the question for you guys. Is that what you think would be the solution for Africa?
I would say that that's better than what we have now. Yeah.
But is that what you would have? Is that what you advocate for?
Me personally?
Well, that's the only person I'm talking to.
Well, I would advocate for the unit. Me personally, I think the unitary state espoused by Dessalines, by Garvey, and by Lumumba is the way to go.
And what does that mean for Lesotho?
That means that whatever traditional commercial rights and whatever rights that they have on a local level will be respected. But in terms of someone talking in the background.
Yeah, I'm Black every day. You're having a conversation that we all can hear. All right. Anyway, Afrimac, what do you say? Well, you can mute your mic. I am Black every day until you want to say something.
Yeah, I apologize, boss man. I was gonna jump in on the African part as far as the states and things of that nature.
Yeah, I was gonna let Afrimac finish first before you jumped off.
All right.
Yeah, so he could just articulate his view.
Thing.
Yeah. Afrimac, what were you saying?
Well, on the issue of Lesotho, when you're speaking about rights, you can kind of examine what they call land tenure in Africa and the inverted pyramid, in the sense that local rights are never trumped for statehood or for national needs. So for Lesotho, they would definitely, in terms of their local traditions and in terms of their customs and the way that they handle commerce at that level, it's going to be respected. But when we're talking about higher levels of organization, higher levels of construction, higher levels of federation, definitely, especially if we are about liberation, I think it would be foolish to not build a higher form of unity, be that a continental federation, an international federation, or whatever. There's a lot of different ways to do that. So Lesotho exists within the context of their locality, but that context is different when we're talking about a wider perspective of operation.
All right, here's the trouble. You're using too many big words, and not too many people could understand you. Zane, did you understand what he said?
There's smart people here. Come on.
I mean, yeah, there's smart people, but you're still using a lot of big words. So Zane, can you understand what he just said? Do you understand what he just said?
Yeah, he's basically saying that in the sense of Lesotho, they should still remain, but in a grand picture, the bigger picture is how do we remedy these borders, basically? Do we create one united Africa and then have the countries that still exist be states? Like, basically, what's the solution?
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. He said, that's what I'm saying. He advocated for the unitary state, and he said that Lesotho could continue to hold on to its rights in a sense. It's certain local traditions, But what does that mean? Let's say tangibly. Zane, you can answer that.
I really don't think that we should be looking at it from that perspective, because the countries that exist today, there's really some countries do have basically a I just don't feel like having, because it's still gonna be the same states basically. I mean, it's just gonna be the same problem basically.
What do you mean?
Because we're gonna have these states, instead of calling them countries, they're just gonna be states. That's not a solution. That's not changing really the borders. That's just making Africa one big country, and then having like Nigeria be a state instead of having.
Well, here's my issue. I want to run by you guys. Lesotho is tiny.
Yeah.
Okay, it's tiny. It's like 2 million people. It's very small. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, it's an enclave country in South Africa. So like it's completely surrounded by South Africa. It's tiny. Why are we? Not just that. I'm looking at this demographics. While it's 99.7% Basotho, it's also 92% Christian. The question being now, why would we keep that? I don't understand. What are you keeping that for?
Because all the people are the same. Like, what's the point of changing something that already works?
Well, I mean, there's only 2 million people.
I think the question is a little myopic. I think it's a little bit myopic. I think it should be like, what is the context of Lesotho and what we're trying to do? What does it mean to be Basotho and what we're trying to do?
All right. Okay. So that question, I'll ask you. I'll ask IAmBlackEveryDay. IAmBlackEveryDay. What about that question Afrimac just asked?
I believe any unified state, country, whatever you want to call it, that can deliver commerce or that can work within the whole sense of Africa. Because think about it, no matter how small or how big the country is, if it's in disarray, it doesn't benefit us much. Mm-hmm. So Lesotho is more of like a stable platform to say this is something simple, this is something that works. If we have a model that we can use in other areas to get a flowing country that works together, again, like I said, it's something that requires a lot of moving pieces and a lot of sitting down. And honestly, as far as keeping the borders, like I said, I feel we should redo them. So, I mean, the Sproto could be made bigger if necessary. That's just, my personal opinion. But again, it's about the heart.
Well, here's another thing, too, that's worth pointing out. That quite a significant number of Basotho are not even in Lesotho, right? They're in, some of them are in South Africa, some of them are in Botswana, some of them are in Eswatini. I mean, a handful are obviously in the United Kingdom and United States, but for the most part, actually most of them, it's considered are in South Africa. So what does that mean now with that information? Not just that, I wanna be clear, I'm not too sure if I'm familiar with, actually I think the Basotho is one of my favorite ethnic groups, to be honest, but I just didn't recognize the name. But they were actually a recent group, kind of like a resistance to the Zulu expansion. Okay? So they're kind of like a Pan-African ethnic group already that was more trying to resist, how the Zulu were doing what they were doing. The question becomes now, well, one of the questions that I really think is really important when we're talking about ethnicities in Africa is that whereas we may tie ethnic groups with land, we have to remember that a lot of these ethnic groups themselves have moved, have been, removed from land, have been absorbed into other, so on and so forth, to the point where there's a lot more ethnic groups, and there's disputing, and there's conflicting land claims. There's conflicting land claims in the sense of, let's say, like I just said, Zulu expansion, right? The Zulu will have land claims to quite a bit of land, but only because they removed quite a few other people from that land, Or like Sister Zane just said, we had the Mali Empire. So the Mali people and the Soninka and the Songhai people, and the Ghanaian people all kind of claim the same land, right? To the point where even though Lesotho kind of has it where it is, and yet they also aren't necessarily all the Basotho people. Like, what does that mean now for the, let's say, Basotho in South Africa? What does that mean now for the Zulu people and the people that were the victims of the Zulu people? What does that mean for the Mali Empire and the people who were the victims of the Mali Empire? You know, what is this? I'm trying to grasp how does this, what does this mean if, once upon a time Africans were contentious about this land, and then we just say, okay, now we're going to fix the land, kind of in the same style, well, not the same style of the Berlin Conference, but kind of like the Berlin Conference, except we're going to say, all right, you guys now, you're going here, you both are fighting over this land, but we're going to just say this is their land, so on and so forth. How do we reconcile all that in a new African system? And we're going to go to Afrimac for that question. Afrimac?
Well, I think in order to answer the question, we have to set our perspective. And I would severely caution against the narrative that says that within pre-colonial Africa, there was a lot of violent conflict, because I don't think the archaeological evidence displays that. If you look at Chancellor Williams, what he wrote in Destruction of Black Civilization, and he spoke about the different conflict between African states, what was actually athletics, or what was actually what we would call the Olympics, or the usage of sport, was a way that in pre-colonial times we see African nations and different African states settling disputes. Also at the same time, you look at what Sheikh Anta Diop wrote in both Civilization or Barbarism and pre-colonial Black Africa, where you're talking about the cultural unity of Black Africa. And you're talking about instances where, because again, Africans dealt with the territorial state as opposed to the modern nation state. When you have one group wanting to expand their borders, what they would do is they would go to their neighbors and they would talk it out with their neighbors, and they would try to find commonality, and they would try to find areas and places where their lineages converged. Because, believe it or not, detribalization, and I heard it a little bit previously in the call, detribalization, when you're looking at Namur, the first Nasut, or the first Pera, Pharaoh, Great House, King of Kemet, when he united the nomes of Kemet, that was an instance of detribalization. And Diop in Civilization or Barbarism stated that that principle was one of the foundational principles of the African mode of production, or the formation of political economies in Africa before, foreigners came in. So the idea that tribalism or ethnic identity is a barrier is a foolish one, especially when we're entering into pre-colonial African social formations and how our ancestors did things before the Europeans. Now, in modern times, when you're talking about these ethnic groups and you're talking about these questions, even within our own history, we have examples, all Africans do, of certain ethnicities who migrated into their country, or certain people who created a new group and they became a new people after a few hundred years for whatever reason. And these experiences are part of our reality. If we turn them into a barrier and we turn them into fear, and it's a fear-based thing, we're playing into the enemy's hands. If we look at the democratic structure, and I'm using democratic to copy off of Chancellor Williams in Destruction of Black Civilization, we can see how throughout the history of Africa, when we had these conflicts, when we had these ethnic disputes, you can see nations like Songhay forming, or nations like Mali forming. We have to do the same thing today. We have to use our ethnic identities, right? And we have to use the qualities that are beneficial to us in order to build modern structures to take care of what we need to take care of.
So, all right, my question is this. When you say, all right, so that's the thing, that's the trouble right here. Yes, Africa's history is definitely different. The only question is this, that now you're talking about, like, you think we should return to pre-colonial Africa, I imagine. But what about...
Not in its entirety. I'm not necessarily an idealist on that question.
Well, here's my question.
I'm just saying we should be African-centered.
In regards to land tenure, right? There's pre-colonial Africa, right? But there are a lot of post-colonial ethnic groups. Okay? And by post-colonial ethnic groups, I mean like, well, all right. Well,
non-Africans?
No. All right. So like, I mean, it depends on how you look at it, because this is kind of a harder conversation to have. But let's say Dahomey, right? I don't know if people consider Dahomey pre-colonial, but it's considered to be.
Let's use Bamileke. That's a better example towards your case. Bamileke, as an origin, as a people, are a 16th century combination of cross-river people from eastern Nigeria, Sao people from Chad, and Kemeto Nubians from the Happy River Valley.
Well, all right. Well, the reason why.
Century.
Well, the rest I'm saying. I think Dahomey may be 17th century, right? And the reason why I wanted to use Dahomey is because of, let's say, Dessalines, as you mentioned earlier, has some sort of connection with Dahomey, and a lot of let's say Vodon we know to come from Dahomey as well. But Dahomey, as far as we're concerned, the Dahomey Empire is post-colonial. So if we were to have a new Africa per se, right? Would Dahomey, would people who identify as Dahomean or descendants of Dahomey, would they have any land rights then?
Of course, and the reason being is because those African formations, even in light of colonialism, like today in Nigeria, the Susu economy or the informal indigenous economy is $1 trillion in GDP. So just because colonialism happened doesn't mean that the African identity stopped. Even when you're looking at the syncretic faiths in the so-called New World, and you had a continuation of Ifa and a continuation of Odinani, and in the same vein, you had a continuation of those political structures.
Well, here's the thing.
Like in Dahomey to Haiti.
Here's the reason why I brought up Dahomey. I'm going to try to share the screen because it was an interesting thread by our good friend Ptah. He's a cool guy. Anyway, so he has this thread, and it's about the all-female Dahomey Amazon, blah blah. Empire of Dahomey in present-day Republic of Benin, not to be confused with the Great Benin Kingdom, right? So what's interesting about these people is that, one thing I'd always heard about them was just how much they were responsible for enslaving a lot of the ancestors of the people in the African diaspora. Now, one of the
caveat to that?
Come again?
Can you add a caveat to that, the last statement you made?
Should I add a caveat?
Yeah, because I'm saying, to act as if it was 100% of the Dahomey population as opposed to an extremely small minority of the elite would be a little bit shaky.
Oh, well, no, I'm saying that's the reason why we bring them up. Now, here's the reason why. Now, here's the thing that is interesting about them, is that now these post-colonial ethnic groups, right, because of the situation that they found themselves in, were a little bit on the brutal side, and a lot of what was going on in the post-colonial world were essentially, like terrible conflicts on the African continent, so that and that's why I'm bringing up, because you had the Chancellor Williams example of different African groups. Having sports and, just playing, play fighting in a sense. Whereas then you have, post-colonial Zulu. But now, not to say the Zulu are post-colonial, but to say that the Zulu, around Shaka Zulu's time are, bloodthirsty, just slaughtering people. And the same could be said about the Dahomey. This is a thread on them. I'm trying to go to the part where he discusses, the Oyo attempted one final invasion of Dahomey, but the Oyo army was soundly defeated. Oyo never regained its prominence, and Dahomey became the top military power. And so Oyo and Dahomey. The Dahomey-Oyo wars still rank as some of the most devastating in Africa's history. So that's obviously there's the Oyo Empire, or what you will, versus the Dahomey Empire, and then this one, the remaining were disbanded. I think at some point he does. It might be another thread that he gave, because he gives a lot of good threads, but. And of course, I advise people to follow this guy at Ptah. But
He's got a lot of great info.
Yeah. Let's see. Oyo Empire declined in the Fulani jihads and slave raids, so on and so forth. The reason why I bring this up in the countless conflict, and let's say the Oyo Empire falls, and so Dahomey now goes in and blah 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 blah, or the Yoruba Empire, the Oyo Empire, the Yoruba. Okay, the Oyo was I guess the Yoruba, but let's say they successively invaded each other. Oh, here's the Ashanti. That's what I wanted to do. Legendary status when they confronted and soundly defeated the Ashanti army, which had attempted to capture Oyuda. The Ashanti at the time were the most militaristic and powerful nation. So this question, the reason why I bring this up is to say that these borders that we claim are pre-colonial were constantly moving, constantly shifting, and so for us to go back in time and try to say, okay, now these are the borders. The question becomes, why would these borders stop changing? I mean, of course, I understand you're saying, well, we're going to be more peaceful this time.
The idea is to reconstruct. The idea is to continue on the tradition of detribalization, continue on the tradition of construction, and build something new that's better for us in the modern day.
So my question then becomes, for our people, is... So then again, you have this Lesotho, which is a tiny state, tiny mono-ethnic state. Not even all the Basotho people. What happens to the Basotho people outside of Lesotho? I'm going to ask Zane that.
They can stay where they're at. If they don't want to live in Lesotho, they can stay in wherever if South Africa becomes like different.
What becomes it? Kosa. What becomes? I don't know how to say it. So Zosa. I can't do the click. But what if it becomes Zosa? Then should the Zosa say the Basotho should leave? Then what?
Then there's no point of having. I mean, I don't think now it won't come to that, because I'm pretty sure those people who are not living in Lesotho that are Basotho, they probably speak a different another language besides Basotho. People in Africa are multilingual.
No, I'm saying that if the all right, so the Basotho people in South Africa, what if they want to stay? Then what? They want to stay in like a new state that's not Lesotho. That's okay.
They can, that should be okay.
So multiple mono-ethnic states, multiple mono-ethnic states of different ethnicity, of the same ethnicity.
You can have multi-ethnic states. The thing is, as long as they're working, that's the whole point of having this discussion. If a country like Senegal is mostly like we're all mono, like we have all basically the same culture, even though we're different ethnicities. We basically have the same culture in a sense. Yeah. It should stay that way.
Well, it's a different question from what I'm asking. I'm saying that the Basotho in South Africa decide to have like a Asoto or something. You know what I mean? Like a different, like they decide to have a Basotho, another mono-ethnic state for Basotho people. That's not the same as Lesotho. Then that's cool.
If that's okay with the neighboring ethnicities, then yeah, they should be allowed to do that.
And if it's not okay?
Then if it's not okay, then we have to find a solution. I mean, I'm pretty sure every problem has a solution. We just gotta think outside the box.
All right. Okay. Okay. IAmBlackEveryDay. I haven't heard from you recently. What's up? What are you thinking?
I'm feeling like I agree with Zane. I mean, everything is pretty much dependent upon our cooperation within the state, the country, the continent, however you want to put it. If we're working based off of Pan-African ideals, regardless of whether it's Garvey or Kwame, it doesn't matter. We know we have to work together to make it come to fruition. So any issues would have to be dealt with. If the people don't want to leave where they're at, but they're trying to be forced, then I'm sure there should be another country elsewhere willing to accommodate things of that nature. It's just about working together.
So not necessarily tied to the land though, because the Basotho, if they were in South Africa and they had some sort of land claim, let's say, or maybe they don't have a land claim, but whatever, let's say they have a land claim, then you're saying that it doesn't matter if the people of the neighboring countries do not want them because they might have a land claim. The Xhosa might have a land claim to wherever the Basotho are talking about. So I mean, like, really, it comes down to, do you think that, each ethnic group has a land claim, and if so, what does that mean about their autonomy in regards to enforcing that claim?
I think more we're going forward and not backward, because enforcing claims is a lot of going backwards and
You think
going
so?
back in history. And I mean, and able to enforce a claim, you got to say my people were here first,
Okay.
or my people were here the longest.
What's wrong with that, though? Well, why should somebody give up their land?
If we're improving, right? In order to improve, sometimes you have to change certain things. I understand if it's not broke, don't fix it. I do agree with that. But in the same regard, we do have to have some sort of give and take. Now, if there's 15 land claims on, the little lot of land or this country or that country, how are we ever going to get anywhere if we don't sit down and say, all right, take a portion, or you stay here.
Let me say it this way.
This big area is yours.
Let me say it this way.
Understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you saying. Let me say it this way. Okay, there's the Somalia, right? Somali people usually don't like people that look like you, all right? You're saying that in your Pan-African vision, you are going to just go into, or anybody could just walk up into Somalia, and if they don't like it, they can just whatever. And my question is, why would anybody from Somalia advocate that?
I think you should maybe add a clan caveat, because I'm not sure every clan in Somalia would feel that way.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, sure, but this is just the general.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, this is the general sentiment.
For the Somalis who maybe agree with us.
Well, I think there are. Me personally, I think there are probably a lot of Somalians who would agree with, or Somali who would agree with Pan-Africanism. But it's more really to wheedle out this idea of a land claim, because most people would really not think that there's a land claim. I mean, to dismiss a land claim, that's really what I want to wheedle out. Not so much.
Yeah.
To dismiss a land claim.
Yeah. Like to say that a land claim is just a thing of the past.
No, okay. I apologize to cut y'all off, but I believe if someone has a sole land claim and it can be proven, no, we should not disrespect that land claim. But you were talking in terms of
contentious,
multiple.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Coming after the same land, then we have to work a solution. Otherwise, that leads to wars.
I want to ask Zane something, because she's a sister here, and Afrimac already touched on this. Zane, now here's one of the reasons why people advocate for Pan-Africanism, right? The idea is that Africa's economy as it is today is tiny, and if Africa is to contribute, or if Africa is to participate in the global economy, it has to unite and strengthen its economic well-being, and that's only going to come about with much larger states. A 2 million population, let's say Lesotho, a 2 million population with a meager GDP per capita is not going to be able to compete against the United States, which has 300 something million people, and on top of having 300 something million people, it has a pretty decent GDP per capita. Right? In that sense, why would we want to? I mean, what is your solution? Sorry, what would you what is your solution that includes your prior answers, in a sense, that goes towards Africa actually being economically competitive in the global economy?
So my solution for that would be to have all African nations have the same currency.
Okay.
So we can have the same currency, we can use the same money. That does not mean that we have to identify as the same. You get what I'm saying? So, I'm pretty sure everybody who's African is going to identify with Africa, right? Being African. I think that's already enough for us to have the same currency. We should have the same currency.
All right, hold on a second. But just to copy off of a meme, there's this idea of step one gain the same currency. Step 2, step 1, use the same currency. Step 2, question mark, question mark, question mark. Step 3, profit. Now I'm trying to figure out what's step 2 exactly.
Step 2 would be to agree upon which African currency we're going to use.
No. What I mean is that I don't see how everybody using the same currency is going to somehow morph Africa's economy.
Step two would be.
Wait, hold on a second. IAmBlackEveryDay. We're gonna let the sister. Sometimes people don't let sisters talk.
Oh yeah.
And
well, I
Zane.
didn't.
You know.
Okay, so basically
we want to figure this out.
Okay, because I'm tired of having most, like, there's 14 African countries whose money is backed by the French. Like, that needs to go away. So if everybody having one currency, I would think it would be easier to trade, because now we don't have to convert Sanfas into Nairas or whatnot.
Okay. Well, I'm just boggled. Maybe. All right. Well, so it looks like I'll make IAmBlackEveryDay, since he wanted to explain. How is it that is it that you believe that this united currency would be the difference to make Africa a competitive continent?
I believe if we're solidifying Africa as a whole world power, I definitely believe one currency would drastically exhilarate those efforts. But I also believe we have to get control over all of our natural resources as well, because some of our countries do not have control as of currently over portions of resources and things like that. These are all the things that need to come into play.
Okay, so
like you said.
Okay. Wait, is there? Sorry, I don't mean to cut off. Wait, I don't mean to cut him off, and I don't think anybody else should, to be honest. But sorry, IAmBlackEveryDay. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, like you were saying, step 1, get the same money. Step 2 would be to allocate our resources within the country or continent.
Okay. And you believe that's a way forward. I'm guessing Sho wants to talk, but I know Afrimac wants to say something. So I guess Sho. Let's hear what you wanted to say.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say the unitary, like the ethno-state model, is a terrible idea.
Okay.
And I'll explain why. And I'll use a great country. So you have Nigeria. You have everyone saying Nigeria should split into 3 nations, as if there are only 3 ethnic groups in Nigeria. Allegedly, there are 250 plus ethnic groups.
Okay.
So when you actually do split it into 3 nations, you're actually splitting up hundreds of ethnic groups. So just based off that premise, you would have to have hundreds of independent nations just in Nigeria itself in order for the single ethnicity model to work. So that is not a viable thing in the 21st century. It will not work.
Okay.
And someone said it themselves, just really quickly.
That's Nigeria.
You will not be able to compete in the global economy.
That was me.
Already in West Africa, we have small countries that get destroyed when they try to go to the global market. It's not viable at all.
So so that's the question. So you're saying, okay. So all right, so then I'll ask you, and by the way, you could actually introduce yourself. Introduce yourself so people know who's talking.
Yo, what's going on? It's Shoma Khalifa, Pan-African Nationalist, fighting for the rights of African/Black people all over the world. Let's get it cracking.
All right, okay. And I see we have Machiavelli here, so Machiavelli, you can say a word or two. Watch him say a word or two. Okay, never mind. Is he saying something? No? Okay. All right, so Afrimac, sorry, so Joe, so what is it, so what exactly are you advocating? So when it comes to Basotho or Lesotho, what are you saying then?
I think they should just, so here's the thing about borders, right? Mm-hmm. The only people that respect borders are governments. People don't respect borders. There is not a nation on this planet where people just don't cross the border. You go to China, people cross the border every day. You go to Nigeria, people cross the border every day. The thing about borders is that it gives a sense of who is included in this national cake. So let's say with Nigeria, they're like, hey, we're going to split up this oil money finally and give people stipends. Mm-hmm. So the people within the state get the stipends, right?
The citizens.
People outside of it don't.
Yeah, the citizens.
That's really the only reason why borders are a thing, in that you have to have some defined sense of territory for certain managerial tasks.
Okay.
But day-to-day basis, I'm sure Zane can say it too, people cross borders every day all over the world. Mm-hmm. Border never stopped anywhere. And you can't, and it's not like you can police thousands of miles of land. They can't even do that in America with all the technology. That's definitely not happening in Africa, which is like 2 or 3 times, 4 times the size, and with very different landscape, right? Okay. So to me, the borders thing, I don't think that's really a conversation.
Oh, okay. Thanks. All right, so Afrimac, what are you going to say about that? What are you saying about about all you've heard?
I think the money question about getting one currency, I think that needs a predecessor. What type of currency are we going to use? Because Bitcoin. If we have the same, say it again.
He said Bitcoin.
Bitcoin? No, Bitcoin is a disaster. Bitcoin is just a digital.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Machiavelli 7-Day Theory. You dig? You know, I'm here. I ain't gonna take that Bitcoin slander player.
Bitcoin is too volatile to be an official currency
because of lack of liquidity. As liquidity grows, then you'll lack the volatility. Next question.
Well, the reason for that is because it's not an official currency for taxes. It's not an official currency for tender.
It's already taxed in many countries around the world. Next question.
But why is it so volatile?
Because it's 10
Why is it so volatile? Because
lack of liquidity right now.
Bitcoin
goes down. Simple. It's functional correlation right there. Next question.
Bitcoin is a digital cash equivalent. That's what it is. It is a digital. It's like a check. It's like an online check. That's what Bitcoin is.
It's more than that, sir. But go on.
Oh man. I mean, hey, if you can look at, because what's going to happen is that eventually as technology advances, you're going to have a crypto dollar and a crypto peso and a crypto renminbi, so on and so forth. So yeah, the money is going to become crypto, but I don't believe that independent documented ledgers are sufficient enough to run a multi-trillion-dollar global economy, especially a global economy that has even a larger amount, a quintillion amount in derivatives and secondary and tertiary obligations. Like, the idea that Bitcoin would be able to handle that, it's not even mature enough. It doesn't even have the history.
My brother. The basis of Bitcoin is based on the blockchain. If you know what the blockchain is, then you'll know that.
Yeah, documented ledger technology. Yeah.
Of course. That means the ability of the technology is that it can cover all of those things that you said, derivatives, et cetera, different ledgers.
Who's regulating
notary, all of these things that you can do.
Wait, so let me just clarify, Machiavelli. Are you suggesting that Africa should go strictly to become a Bitcoin economy?
If not just Bitcoin, then blockchain based, yes. Well, in fact, no, I'll say Bitcoin, yeah.
So
because that's the gold standard of cryptocurrencies.
So you think that Africa's official currency should be Bitcoins?
I'm sorry?
So you believe that Africa's official currency and only currency should be Bitcoins?
No. The latter, no.
Well, that was the question.
When
Afrimac asked what should be Africa's currency, you said Bitcoin. So, I mean, the question is, so that question goes back to you. Do you think that Africa should strictly should have its official currency should be Bitcoin?
I don't see a problem with that. No.
Interesting.
Bitcoin doesn't come from Africa, though.
Okay, where does it come from?
Didn't it come from the U.S.?
Nobody knows, bro. If you know, then you know that.
Did African people invent it?
Exactly. No, the thing is, no one knows who invented it. The only person went as a pseudonym, or groups of people known as Satoshi Nakamoto.
Do you think that's smart to make that an official continental currency when we don't have any idea where it came from?
It's a robust system. So yeah, if you know the technology background of the blockchain ledger, then you'll know that it's immutable.
All right. Well, hold on a moment. I'm actually kind of curious. I mean, this is probably a tangential question, maybe a question for another time. But I would believe, at least for, let's say we talk about the dollar, right? One of the advantages of the U.S. dollar is that the U.S. can print it whenever it wants, and when it prints it, what it does is that by having that, it can control inflation rates and control the prices of goods. Now, if you do not know who created the Bitcoin, but you know for sure that Africans cannot just artificially create Bitcoins, why in the world would Africans essentially not have any control over their economy?
It's a deflationary asset.
Wait, again, you know, if the United States can print its money in order to keep itself afloat, but if you cannot print Bitcoins, why would you do that? Why would you use it?
I want to say print. You can. Well, the concept is mining. You can mine the currency, but there's only a set of amount that can ever be created.
Exactly. So
has it ever been hacked before?
And the purpose of Bitcoin was to prevent against that nonstop printing or inflationary fiat currency that we have now.
Well, yes, but at the same time, that fiat currency can, what the United States uses, can, in essence, allow it to borrow against itself and keep its economy afloat. So why would, now if that's let's say an intelligent way to create your, like to keep your economy going in a sense, or even said differently, I'll do it this way in fact. If you look at any state budget, and I was actually making a list on my official, my Pan-African Progress thing. If you look at any state budget or any city budget or any nation budget, you'll find that a lot of times the budget is higher than the revenue, right? That is that these nations spend more, than they earn, and they do this in a sense borrowing against their, future. In order that they can grow their economy and then essentially cover that cost. Now, if you have a currency that's out of your control, right, then you cannot actually spend more than you get. And if you can't spend more than you get, when you need to, when an example of needing to would be if Africa's trying to industrialize itself. So if Africa's trying to industrialize itself and it needs to get an expensive piece of equipment that it can't necessarily afford right now, but with the equipment, that equipment can create jobs and create a higher GDP, and essentially it can pay for itself in the future. If they can't do that without having control over their own currency, then they've just screwed themselves over. So I'm going to ask you again, Machiavelli, is that really a concept that African people should be exploring at this moment?
Yeah.
Interesting. And why do you say yeah? Wait, what? we know your mic works. Your mic don't work. He's only acting like his mic don't work. You got crystal clear.
Nah, but on a serious note, yes, I do agree that Bitcoin should be a base currency. Yes.
Interesting.
And
a Bitcoin or like an Africoin?
Can I say what I'm saying? Appreciate it, Claire. So.
Dang, I thought I was a moderator. This is the same dude told me. This is the same dude told me to moderate better. He's like, "I'll cut you off. I'm gonna cut you off. I'll do whatever I want." All right, okay. What were you saying?
So.
And thank you for knowing I'm a player. No, I'm not. I'm not, ladies. I'm not, ladies.
Anyway.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that you can have Bitcoin. Like, Bitcoin, essentially, especially what you know about the currency market, is the gold standard. It's the original one, and it's not necessarily used more for transfers as much, but more as a store of value. Now, in me saying that, you have other derivatives or other projects or platforms, I should say, known as decentralized financial platforms or markets, where you can then have those loaning and synthetic assets and derivative platforms, where you can have that process of having other assets to trade for loans and gain interest on those things so that you can help with your investments as well. So it's not necessarily that you only have Bitcoin, you only trade in Bitcoin, that's all you have, but it opens you up to other means of gaining interest and loans in where that you don't have to worry about having to deal with other countries trying to buy up your other loans with their inflationary assets.
Okay, so what exactly is the advantage? Just to clarify, what exactly is the advantage in being a Bitcoin, like being a continent
your
with the
checks and
Bitcoin?
balances are going to be in check for sure. It's because everything is recorded on the public ledger that can be seen, so you can check whatever person's checks and balances that they're doing to make sure there's no.
Hold on a second. You just said the public ledger.
Or nefarious
No,
activities.
wait. Hold on a second. You just said a public ledger. Are you saying that Africa, a continent, let's say if it becomes a continental superpower, that a superpower should have all of its transactions publicly recorded?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. What are you talking about?
Okay, hold on a second. Afrimac, hey, hold on a second. Before show. Wait, show. Before you say something, Afrimac, what would you say to that? You say yes as well?
No, that's a little bit foolish to have absolutely every single transaction publicly recorded.
Okay.
I don't even think that's representative of African economies because you have secret societies in Africa. So with regards to the ledger, it's kind of like we both know that Bitcoin and the blockchain specifically, has been hacked numerous times.
Sure. No, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. Bitcoin has never been hacked. The blockchain itself has never been hacked.
The blockchain has never been hacked?
Bitcoin itself, the Bitcoin blockchain has not been hacked.
He's right about that.
It is not.
Yeah, apparently he's brought
So
that before. He said it before. Yeah, what are you gonna say, Zane?
I'd have to look into that. But that wasn't even my main point. That wasn't my main point.
Okay.
My main point was that if you know, right, the value of the blockchain itself is that because the documented ledger technology allows people to send messages, over a stream that are relatively anonymous. And if that is the value in the sense that you can mine anonymously on the blockchain, is it intelligent to have, in a global economy, trillions of transactions in less than a second occurring on a blockchain as a base currency? And my question to that is, on top of the question I just asked, is that smart? On top of that, who's going to regulate that?
It's self-regulatory because it's a decentralized market, or decentralized platform, I should say.
Yeah. All right. So I think we've explored this enough. I do not think. As much as I know Sean was gonna say. Well, I don't know what Zane was trying to say, but I know Sean was saying that he thinks it's gonna go against corruption or something. Guys, we're talking about competing against the United States of America. If you have public information on what your nation is doing, in regards to, let's say, its weapon manufacturing, its this, so on and so forth, then you're clearly slipping. I want to say that
Wait,
hold on before you guys cut me off. I want to. Hey, show. We're moderating. Hey, show. All right, let me mute this guy. I'm gonna mute this guy. All right, and we're gonna mute him. Okay. So what I said was that what I was saying was that in the art of war, we're discussing what is known as in the art of war, Sun Tzu, and obviously that's an Asian, but he's saying all warfare is based off of deception. One of the things that you don't want to do in terms of if you want to, what you have to understand about Wazungu is that he is going to use this art of war against you. And if he's using this art of war against you, that means that you cannot necessarily play fair with him. You have to kind of change your tactics even a little bit in order to get it so that he's no longer, going to, try to deceive you. You see what I'm saying? That you cannot just go and give him all the information that you have for your military advancement, because when you do that, it screws up on whatever it is that you're trying to do. So I'm gonna unmute this brother. Hopefully he's
from the lowest level, right?
Okay.
The problem in Africa is there's no accountability. Anything the government does, the average person cannot find any record of what the government is doing.
Okay,
no one trusts the government. You can't even fight Wazungu if you have no government.
Okay, so all right, so Zane, what were you gonna say?
So I was gonna say that so we should know like the budgets of our government and how much money is going towards the military. We should know, okay, they bought tanks for the military. I'm talking about this money was put towards the military. This money is put towards food, like that sort of stuff. So we can
should know every penny.
Yeah, we should see. Okay,
I mean, even if you should know, but the thing is this. Hold on a second.
Paid this much, and where is that money going to? Is he putting
I understand
it
that. Even if you should know, I think if you should know, or if you should know in a certain sense, the question is, should everyone know? Should everyone all over the world know?
No.
It matters about the 200 million people living in Nigeria who didn't know.
Well, the idea is that we're not.
They're literally hoarded in their bedrooms, bro.
Yeah. So we need to know how much is the politicians getting? Okay, what's their salary? How much are they making, and how much are they taking out of the budgets of the military and whatnot to support their families so their children can go and be schooling overseas in fancy places? Because the infrastructure in Africa is not good. As you a president, why are you not building up the schools so your children can go there as well? Mm-hmm. You see that the schooling sucks, and you know it sucks. That's why you're sending your children overseas for education.
Okay.
Like, we need to know where the money.
So the assumption, that's what I'm saying. The assumption right here is that Africa is always going to be corrupt, and therefore we should always have anti-corruption mechanisms in it. But the only question then becomes, why would you have a whole superpower being incredibly transparent?
Isn't it the same thing as why do we care about Trump's tax records?
Well, I don't really care about tax records, but
I mean, why does the president every time?
But look, at the same time, here's the thing I want to emphasize. At the same time, Trump can hide his tax records.
She did make a good point there.
About the Trump? Yeah. The thing is that Trump still can hide it if he wants to. And the reality is that
he has money in China. He's paying more money to China than he is to the United States.
Yeah, the reality is that that's what I'm saying. The reality is that the United States has mechanisms for people to not necessarily surrender all their information. And the reason, and the part of the reason that is the case for it, and that's part of the reason why it could be that alleged superpower it is today. But Afrimac, what would you say about? Actually, no, IAmBlackEveryDay. You said something about it. What were you gonna say? Except for, she made a good point. IAmBlackEveryDay. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, we can't show every single thing. I understand where you're coming from in terms of tactical wise. It can't be transparent to the point where the whole world knows Africa has weapons of mass destruction. You know what I mean? But at the same time, man, there is so much corruption that there has to be a level of transparency. It has to be somewhere.
I don't know. You see, that's what I'm saying.
You can't just.
Sorry. You finish your point.
But you can't just continuously have it, because again, even in America, we don't have as much transparency as we think we do about politicians and where the money goes. In Africa, it's even a step further down the hole. So if we're gonna make it a world power, the people have to be a part of that world power. That's gonna help strengthen the country. So they gotta be comfortable within it. You gotta give them something. It has to be some transparency.
Here's the thing I want to say, because you just said something really important, about in regards to the nuclear weaponry, right? Now what you're dealing with is Africa, and I don't know how we got into the Bitcoin conversation, but now you're dealing with Africa openly making purchases from Cuba, openly making purchases from Russia, openly making purchases from North Korea. Openly, you have openly making purchases from China, openly making purchases from the United States, particularly Lockheed Martin, particularly this institution, particularly that institution. Like all of that just being explicitly public while it might sound good for, it might comfort some people on some level, it is incredibly incompetent for an African people to actually do that. And Afrimac, what would you say to that?
I just think that we shouldn't complicate these things. I think we should go back to our traditional constitutions. Chancellor Williams updated it in his many books, and we could look at that as a blueprint for what we're trying to do for the future. We have certain systems, like you would say that our secret societies, fraternal and sorority societies, where like a pre-colonial example of clearance with regards to like covering and controlling and regulating transactions. And we should look at that. We should take a close look at that.
Yeah.
But the financial corruption is always going to be there because capitalism is innately corrupt, and you have to do that to make money and to make profit. It's not about morality. It's about being cold-hearted. So when we're looking at these leaders in Africa, they have the incentive to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
They don't have an incentive to help their own people. Yeah. So that goes back to the philosophical question: where are we trying to go?
Yeah.
Where are we centered?
Yeah, exactly.
What are the parameters that we're using?
I feel like I
agree as well.
Yeah, I feel like the Bitcoin question, which is whatever, is like typically just a distraction. So, but Afrimac, since you were saying something before it was brought up, what were you trying to say in regards to? What were you trying to say in regards to when you asked what currency there is? I mean, I said what currency we should have.
What I was trying to say is that the currency that we have today is obviously not African. The idea of if our entire economy is just based upon accumulating as much value and producing the maximum amount of products to make the maximum amount of profit, that's not our culture. So we have to take a look at that, and we have to examine the currencies that we had before and the different economic systems that we had before the Ma'afa. And for modern purposes, I like to use the example of the UNIA ACL. They weren't perfect, but they were moving in the right direction in the sense that they were actually producing notes based upon socio-cultural utility, a lot closer to the commodity equivalents or the different naturalistic currencies that existed in Africa prior to the presence of capital. I think that's a little bit smarter. But in a grander picture, whatever currency that we design, whatever currency system that we use, it should be designed to be conducive to anti-racist or anti-imperialist, anti-Urugu organization. Because we know that we have an adversary, and we know that many times those adversaries are homegrown due to the mental-societal education or diseducation that we got when we were younger. So we have to be able to answer all of those questions from a philosophical perspective before we can develop the science of the currency system that we use in the 21st century.
Well, let me ask you this, Afrimac, because you just said something about anti-white. What about these, Zayn calls them barbers, but I usually say Berbers. So what about these Berbers? Should they have their own state in Africa?
The ones who are African, sure.
And by African, what does that mean?
I would say personally, I would use darker skin, woolly hair. That would be the parameter that I use.
And so, what about the ones that are not?
Well, we could question about that. That could be adjudicated. There's many ways to adjudicate that. And some nice, some not so nice.
Okay. So,
but yeah, we could have a discussion about that.
Well, I thought that was the prompt.
I mean, it's a very, very long, drawn out. I mean, because you're talking about exogamy, and you're talking about ethnic, demographic numbers, and how to shift those numbers, and what that means over time. I think that we should have a nativist policy designed to increase the amount of, indigenous, autochthonous, original African people. The original untainted African people. I think the policy of our society should be made to increase that population and decrease the invasive forces that we've experienced over the past few centuries.
Mm-hmm. When you say exogamy, when you say exogamy, are you suggesting that are you suggesting more intermixture?
As a general rule, I would not suggest that because I don't think that works. However, if we're going to go there and we're trying to examine these things historically, you could harken back to certain examples where you had the undesirables from certain colonial societies being dumped on the colonies, and those undesirables, DR is an example of that, Australia is an example of that, Brazil and Colombia and Argentina are examples of that. Those people were used as an invasive force to compromise, the colonial people, the people who were in those colonial regimes. And that was a strategy of war. Do I think that strategy should be taken off the table in our case? Not necessarily. I just think that we have to look at that and decide what exactly we want and what exactly we need.
Okay, so all right, Afrimac, I want to ask you this because you seem like you've thought of it. You seem like you considered it. So how does Africa compete on the global economic scale and regards to the borders? In regards to the border question, how does it compete on the global? Like, what does this unitary state look like if I am, say, located in Dakar? Like, I'm in Dakar. What is that? Like, how do you tell me what's around me? Or what is the city I'm in? What's the state I'm in? What's the nation I'm in? What's going on?
Well, you would be in Africa, certainly.
I hope so.
You would likely be in Senegal.
So you think Senegal will still be there?
It's not going to be immediately eliminated, even if we desire to, because what's going to happen is these different reforms are going to be implemented within the constitution of those nations. Like the zoning questions are questions that are settled constitutionally. So that's why I go back to Chancellor Williams, because he provided a blueprint for pre-colonial constitutions, and he used the term democracies in Africa. So when we're changing it, if we're changing it for something better, there's going to be an intermediary phase where these national formations that we have now still exist.
After the intermediary phase, what happens? What is the let's say on a timeline, what does Africa look like in 2100 if you had your way?
The national borders would not exist, and if there are any borders, there would be territorial borders.
So again, I'm located in modern day Dakar, but this is 80 years from now, right? I'm in modern day Dakar. What is this Afrimac vision of my existence look like? Like what like if somebody asks me, hey, where are you from? Right? How do I articulate that? Or even let me say it this way. I'm going to be let's say I'm traveling let's say I travel to America, right? And there's an African American there. He's still being oppressed, obviously. And then I'm like, yeah, I travel from Africa. And he's like, Africa? I heard there was this Afrimac revolution, and there was this, that, so on and so forth. And then he says, and then the African American says, oh, like what is your, maybe we're intelligent then, right? Let's hope. And we're like, what's your what's your latitude, longitude? And me in Africa, I say, oh, it's this, so on and so forth. And he's like, oh, Dakar in Senegal. How does this future version of me, for some reason, how does this future individual, how do they correct this person for saying they were in Dakar, Senegal, or is it not a correction?
I personally, I do not see a problem with the way that the AU is set up. My only issue with the AU is that it is financed by outsiders, and it is financed using an economic system that is non-African. So if you're looking at the way that they zoned it and how they have the different regions, ECOWAS, SADF, East African community, Central Africa, so on and so forth. That is a good model to follow. So in that case, for my ideal circumstance, those borders eventually would not exist. The national borders specifically.
So what is this
now
person
there would be
at this,
other borders.
Yeah. What is this person at latitude? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What is this person in this longitudinal, latitudinal location? What do they say? Do they say I'm a part of ECOWAS? I'm actually a part of ECOWAS.
Well, they would.
Region 4.
They would say that they're part of whatever national formation. ECOWAS is a possibility, and it's not a possibility that I'm opposed to. But whatever formation that is decided according to our customs on a regional level, right? Especially at that time, that's what they would say that they're from, and it would be something that's constructed in a process from now until then. So I can't necessarily.
Well, I mean, just to like imaginarily, you're just saying that it wouldn't be Senegal, but it would be some giant.
Not necessarily.
So you think that it would be Senegal?
I also do not have a problem. I don't have a problem with Nkrumah's model, where the countries become states. The question that I'm more interested in answering is, what is the political economic system that is being used, and what is the objective behind the formation and unity of these states?
Yeah, well, this is your vision.
That's the question.
Well, this is your vision, so, I mean, it's your vision.
Well,
so, I mean,
me personally, I don't have a problem
when I talk to people personally,
the African Union model.
You don't have a problem with a gigantic Western African nation. What do you think it would take to create that? So basically, let me say this. So you're saying that Senegal and Nigeria and Niger and Ghana and wherever else are going to surrender their autonomy. And in surrendering their autonomy, their national authority, they will then become a larger nation with a different head over them. And what does that look like? And do you believe that's even feasible?
Yeah, it's certainly feasible.
Okay.
In the case where the leaders and the movements of those countries agree on a common goal, that is easily. I mean, it's already happening now with you have ECOWAS and certain sectors of the African Union, unifying their macroeconomic policies and unifying their cultural investment and agricultural investment policies. So it's already happening.
Yeah, but that's not the same as political authority.
Huh?
That's not the same as political authority, though. Like that's economic unity as opposed to political unity.
Is not the only relevant authority within African states.
Well, here's the question. All right. For instance, we have I guess you have two Nigerians here, right? Right now, Nigeria is going through this End SARS campaign, right? Now here's the thing. So actually, now this is Zayn. Zayn is from Senegal, right? Zayn, let's say Nigeria and Senegal now have the same political authority, right? So that means that now Senegal is dealing with SARS. How does that sound to you?
I mean, as an African, how does that?
All right, by SARS I don't mean the disease. I mean the brutal the brutal policing force.
I know that. I'm just taken aback by your question because I'm confused on what you're saying.
Okay, basically, because the thing is that one part of any political nationality is that they will have, I would imagine, a shared policing force. In the same way that, let's say I'm in New York State, we all, in New York City technically is the local policing force, but there's also the state troopers, who I guess probably exist more so on the highways. I don't know, but they also can technically go anywhere. But then also you have the feds, the FBI, the so on and so forth, and they kind of can go anywhere they please as well. Now, as far as I understand, I'm not really too versed inside of Nigeria's policing situation, but as far as I understand, SARS has some sort of jurisdiction, pretty much anywhere. Well, not anywhere, probably in certain cities, but it sounds like it might be a whole nationwide. It might be their version of the feds in a sense, right? In that sense, now we're talking about a supra-state, right? Where essentially this SARS model now, potentially, particularly as we all know that Nigeria is the largest body in, it would have to be the largest body. Well, it's the largest state in Africa, so it would also be the largest state in ECOWAS. in that regard, its influence on this quote unquote SARS model. What that would then mean is that this will now be exported to throughout the Western economic nations. And so, as somebody from Senegal, actually, this brother's from, he's from a Western African nation as well. So, in that sense, are you both? Are either of you actually saying, yeah, you know what, we could take the SARS in a sense for the good of Pan-Africanism? Zane, what are you saying?
Are you saying what should be the solutions be? I mean, they should be disbanded. I mean, I thought they were already disbanded, but it seems like they're not. So
I think they might have been. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think they were replaced.
They changed forms.
Yeah, they were replaced with another name.
Yeah. So basically, in my understanding, what SARS is just the unit that was created because there was a lot of robberies going on in Nigeria. So they're going to, if they're disbanded, the people who were a part of STAR are going to be sent to are going to be moved to other areas of the police force, right?
I don't know, but
so we can't really get rid of the corruption if you're just gonna disband it and say, okay, you're gonna go somewhere, you're gonna be a part of this.
No, what I was more asking was, all right, so basically in any political body you have, all right, well, all right, well, how do you say the all right, anytime you have a law, you have law enforcement, right? So if you're talking about a political body, that political body is going to be responsible for laws and law enforcement, right? Now the question becomes, if we've seen that Nigeria has, laws, its version of law enforcement is incredibly distasteful, or against civil rights or human rights, right? Then is that really, like looking at it right now, is that something that other African heads of states would say, you know what, yes, let's all go together and pretty much have Nigeria dominate. Nigeria have essentially the law enforcement policies of Nigeria be more general throughout Africa.
No, I don't think that's going to happen because.
Why not? It happened in Nigeria.
I mean, I don't think it's gonna the laws of Nigeria is not going to apply to the laws of another country.
But how is that? How? Well, that's the question.
We have to come together and create. That's the thing. We have to come together and create our own constitution, our own laws, elect our own leaders. So there has to be some sort of.
Okay, my question is this: didn't you already do that?
No, I don't think we. I'm
so who wrote your constitution?
The French, basically.
The
Constitution, Senegalese constitution just looks like every other constitution in the world. There's nothing special about it.
Let me see. So I'm gonna see if. Let me see, because technically, so you're saying that the Senegalese, they did not write their constitution at all?
I don't believe so because no one's following. The issue is, even if there is a constitution that it basically looks like the American Constitution, but we don't have anything that enforces those constitutions. Like, there's no checks and balances within our government to check those. Like, for instance, Macky Sall can literally turn around and amend the Constitution to have 3 terms instead of 2.
Okay. Well, that's a part of the Constitution.
Huh?
Well, that would be a part of the Constitution. So, yeah, all right, so Leopold.
No one can check him about it. Isn't that what just happened in Guinea, where they have, I think, 2 terms. Now their president is running for a 3rd term, even though that was not in the Constitution last year or 2 years ago.
I don't mind presidents running for life.
Okay.
I don't mind that. I think it depends on what they're doing. Exactly. I don't mind them, because the idea that we have here of term limits they do come from Africa. Sheikh Anta Diop talked about that in Civilization or Barbarism.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But I think that oftentimes we fetishize the whole, transition democracy thing without actually realizing that we have an enemy that's trying to destroy us.
Well, let me ask you this. All right, so I'm looking at this website. It says that the latest constitution for Senegal was in 2001. Okay? So you're saying that the French wrote that constitution in 2001?
No, I'm saying that it's basically the Constitution of Senegal looks like
No, I understand, but who wrote it?
In the world.
Wait, no,
I
I'm
don't
asking.
know, because
Okay.
when we got our independence, we don't seem free. So I'm thinking this is not.
So wait, you feel like nobody knows? I don't understand.
Okay, so the Constitution looks. I mean, if you read it, it looks like every other Constitution in the world.
Okay,
like you have
I understand that, but I'm just trying to.
My thing is.
All right, look, it was voted for by referendum, which, as far as I understand, that's the one where everybody, like the majority of people on the country, vote for it, right? Is that referendum?
No, that's just the basically the.
Yeah. So basically, 94. It's alleged that 94% of the people in Senegal in 2001 voted. Well, 94% of voters in Senegal voted for the Senegalese constitution. So you're trying to say that that the French wrote a constitution in
it says,
wait, hold on a second. The French voted for a constitution. No, the French wrote a constitution in 2001, and then 94% of people in Senegal, or 97% of voters in Senegal.
What I said when we got our independence, there was a constitution.
Yeah, but you've already but the latest constitution.
I don't think Senegalese people wrote that constitution. That's what I'm trying to say. So,
no, that's what I'm saying. In 2001, you changed the constitution in 2001. This is the fourth constitution of Senegal. So Senegal has had 4 constitutions since it had a constitution in 1959, 1960.
We also had 4 presidents.
Hold on a moment. What I'm saying is that you had a constitution in 1959, in 1960, in 1963, and then in 2001 you have a different constitution. So the allegation here is that in 2001, and this was a constitution that was from a referendum of 94% of the voters. So you're saying that in 2001 that the French wrote the Constitution of Senegal, and then the people of Senegal voted for that Constitution.
I'm pretty sure the stuff that's written in 21 is still the same. I mean, 2001 is gonna be. There's just gonna be a change to it. It's just an amendment. I don't think it's like we changed the whole Constitution. That's what I'm trying to say.
Are you sure about that?
And I'm saying that it looks, if you read it, it looks similar to any constitution in the world.
Okay.
So what's so special about it? That's what I'm trying to say.
So you're saying that, but that's what I'm trying to understand, because you're basically saying that your solution before was that we should write our own constitution. And so as far as I understand, you did write a constitution in 2001. So when I asked how is that different? Like, didn't you already do that?
If we're changing the borders, don't you think we would need a new constitution for everybody that's included in the border? We're not going to keep the same. If Senegal is like, okay, if you combine Senegal, Mauritania, Mali, Guinea, and Gambia together and make it one country, don't you think we would need a new constitution?
So you think that you should get rid of Senegal and combine those different nations together?
That's how it was, so that's how it should be. But I'm just saying, hypothetically, if we did do that, don't you think we would need a new constitution?
Sure, of course.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. So if we're not talking about generally, okay, so in that new constitution there would be laws, or there would be something that governs how the military and the police forces should act, right?
Wait, hold on a second. Let me ask you something. What in the world can people not vote in Senegal? I don't understand.
They do, but
wait, how many people vote? Like, how many people can vote? That doesn't make any. I'm looking at this. Maybe I'll share my screen. I'm looking at this page that says that only 2 million people voted for this constitution.
Only 2 million people?
Oh, no,
There's
actually,
50.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, it was a referendum.
You sound surprised.
You said I sound surprised?
That's how it's everywhere in Africa.
Yeah.
I'm saying, why you sound surprised?
That's what I'm saying. Like, the constitutions, basically, like, even our president, our elections, I think they're rigged. Most of them are rigged. We already know.
Wait, no, but I'm just trying to clarify. Why is it that only 2 million people voted? You're saying that?
Because that's the parliament. That's not everybody. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
No, you don't have a parliament of 2 million people. You think you have a parliament of 2 million people?
Did you say 200 or what? Or 2 million?
1.8 million people out of 2.5 million registered voters. You only have 2.5 million registered voters in Senegal?
maybe in 2001, I mean, there's 15 million Senegalese people, so I would.
There's how many? No, there's 15 million. So why do you have so few registered voters? That's interesting. Interesting.
I don't. I mean, why would we vote if it's gonna stay the same?
Well, that's why you vote.
Again,
That's pretty impressive.
There is a lot of refugees in Senegal as well. So like my family, we're refugees to Senegal, so we wouldn't really have, like, my parents would not have Senegalese citizenship.
Interesting.
So because they were not born in Senegal, I was born in Senegal. So.
Oh, they weren't born in Senegal. Okay, so yeah, you guys look like you have very few. Well, right now it looks like you have 7 million registered voters, which is not that bad, but that's impressive. So, I mean, you guys are complaining about.
And then there's also you can actually if you hold, well, I don't know. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's all. Anyway, so anybody else have something to say about that?
Well, you know, the continent, population-wise, is the youngest in the world, so that can also play a part into it, especially back in 2001, the voting age.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was that young back then, but yeah, I feel you on that.
Who was president in 20?
All right, so.
Constitution, well, just on the Constitution thing, you know, these are living documents, so no matter how many times it takes to get it right, we have to get it right. So whether they have to go through 20 iterations of the Constitution until it finally sticks and people finally want to enforce it, you know, we have to do that.
So, you believe that France wrote Senegal's constitution?
I have no idea.
Interesting. All right. Okay, that's pretty fascinating. So, but I didn't really, Afrimac, I wanted you to explain because I didn't really get a good explanation. How does Africa gain wealth in this unitary model?
Well, the wealth is going to be gained by controlling the resources, and that starts with, because in the case of Senegal and, you know, all of the nations under the control of the French Empire, you had leaders educated within these metropoles. You know, Paris would be an example, or Brussels if they were in the Congo, and they have the mindset of the enemy. So when they went back to write their constitution, you had a lot of people who struggled with assimilationists, and in most cases the assimilationists won. That's why in modern Africa you see these constitutions that are so similar to the constitutions that came from, you know, the brothers in their secret, you know, and the Freemasons are not secret, but a lot of these presidents come from the Freemasons, they come from the Rosicrucians, and this is where they're sharing their ideas from. So Africa, in order to be free, would have to step away from that and go back to our original pristine philosophy, and it's about taking care of our community, our society, making sure that everybody's healthy and okay, and controlling our natural resources, and then the rest will take care of itself.
So my question to you then is that your suggestion is that Africa should adopt one constitution akin to Chancellor Williams' example, or should it be that, let's say, the Yoruba should have their constitution and maybe a few guaranteed rights via, let's say, again, Chancellor Williams' Declaration of African Rights in a sense?
Well, any African, any continental or, you know, extra-continental constitution would certainly have to be based upon our local or ethnic identity. So the Yoruba or Oduduwa construction within that would be based upon how they're relating to other African states and other African people within the paradigm of our customs and within the paradigm of what we're actually doing to build these new societies. So it's not necessarily an either or, because on the side of, if we go back to the unitary state, and it doesn't have to be a unitary state, but if we're using that example, those people are still represented because they're a part of Africa. So it's not like every conception that existed beforehand doesn't have a say at all. it does have a say, and it's about empowering the people to make better and more constructive choices as we move along.
Right, let me ask you this, though. Let's say this, national authority. So national authority is the big question in the room. And that is, let's say you have this, the OO Empire? Yeah, you have the OO Empire. Oyo Empire. You have this Oyo Empire, and let's say that's what the Yoruba choose to become, right? Your idea is that they then, even if they're a substantial population, they can manage their affairs, all that they do not have national sovereignty regardless. And by national sovereignty, what I mean is, like, let's say there's the United States of America. As much as New York is a pretty damn cool place in terms of, like, by Wazungu standards, right? They cannot wage war against New Jersey as much as we should. No, I'm joking. I'm just joking. I know you guys said we. All right, I'm just joking. But they can't, right? Now, they also cannot necessarily trade with China outside of the permission of the United States, right? In that sense, now the Oyo Empire is a good empire. They want to trade with China. They want to engage with China. You're saying that they will not have that autonomy.
By themselves? Absolutely not.
Interesting. And so, okay, and not just that. Let's say they want to go to war with, China. They can't make that decision either.
No.
Interesting.
Not by themselves.
So who can?
It would have to be the collective of African people in whatever conception, be it the unitary state, be it a federated state. It would have to be the collective of the people, because that's our enemy.
All right, here's
this.
Here's a better example then. I mean, I know this is not all of Somalia, this is not all of Eritrea, this is not all of Northern Africa, but let's say the Arabs, decide to pull a fast one in Mauritania, right? They decide to pull a fast one in Mauritania, and Africans, what some people would call, all right, whatever. Like, let's say Africans in West or Central or wherever, right? They're tiffed. They're pissed, right? They're like, hey, look, we want to retaliate. We're gonna go march all the way to Saudi Arabia, right? In a sense. And then Eritrea and them say, nope, we don't agree. We're at the African Council. We don't agree. We're blah 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 blah. Then you're saying that we just gotta suck it up and say that's cool.
No, if you're talking about warfare, first of all, that wouldn't happen. And second of all, there would be a structure, like a larger structure to handle that ordeal. And also, like, because we often make this mistake. The people in North Africa, they speak Arabic, but they're not ethnically Arab. They're a mixed population. They're at the foundation, they are African people. But through the centuries and through invasions and rape and all that type of stuff, they've become a mixed population. If you actually talk to them, even the more paler skinned ones who are conscious about their ethnic history, they will be very offended if you call them Arab, because it's the same way that in Cameroon or Senegal or Congo, we speak French or English because of colonialism. They speak Arabic because of their colonialism. Just to be a little bit more accurate.
Hey, look, tell them to be pretty prepared. Tell them to be prepared to be offended. You know what I mean? But family, drop those likes buttons. Drop those likes. Oh no, it went down. Okay, never mind. No, I'm just joking. But all right. Okay. So I mean, I didn't really. So I mean, let me just ask the question. Final closing remarks. I see somebody dropped off. I'm Black every day. Okay, so let's just do some closing remarks, and then we could all head out, go eat home, eat some good food if we have it. So I'll start with Show. What's your closing remarks? How should Africa undo the Berlin Conference? Who gets where, and why is that a good thing?
Yeah, so I think in us to undo the Berlin Conference, first thing is first. I don't think we necessarily need to break any national lines, but I do think we need to give up some national sovereignty. Like Sheikh Joke was saying, in the cultural basis, Black African cultural basis for a federated state, he explains that it's foolish to want continental unity without giving up sovereignty for individual states. So I think just based on that premise, that has to be done. And one of the easiest ways that can be done is to adopt a public transaction ledger of what the government is spending their money on, where the money is going with the politicians, because at the most basic level, the money to industrialize Africa has left over the past 10 years. If you just took the past 10 years of money that's flown out of Africa, you could have industrialized Africa 20 times over, more than likely. That's how bad it is in terms of the money that leaves. And I mean cash, not just resources. I mean cash. So there's a fundamental problem at the basic level of where this money is going. I think if we figure out how to control the capital flow, the capital loss that's going out, we can work on restructuring our ethnic lines, our boundary lines, and all the other lines. But I think at the most fundamental level, we have to tackle how the basic things, lack of water, lack of resources, and to do that, you have to get control of the money.
Uh-huh. All right, Zane, just to clarify, somebody on the chat, Afro Native World asked, is Senegal a good spot for the African diaspora to move to and be based at?
I would say yeah, because it's like, well, if we're talking about, well, it just depends on which country you're coming from. If you're coming from the USA, I would recommend Gambia because they speak English there. So if you're not willing to learn French or Wolof, then no. But if you are, yeah. So it just depends on where you're coming from. If you're coming from Haiti, sure, yeah.
Okay.
Because they speak kind of close dialect of French.
Mchaka wrote that their Jollof is trash, though. Is that true? That the Jollof there is trash?
Now you're just starting stuff.
Michael Jackson style. All right. No, but Zane, let me ask you a question. How should Africa undo the Berlin Conference? Who gets where, and how does that benefit? And what do you think about the comments before?
Huh?
And what do you think about the comments before?
Well, I think the way we should undo it is by. I think we should have like regions. Like this is West. Like different regions should be put into one. And then we should draft a new constitution that works for everybody. And then we can probably have like the cities be more of a, I don't know how to, I know we need to undo it, but I don't know a way to. So that's the problem. So
understandable.
We have to communicate.
All right. Machiavelli, what say you to the same question?
What was the question?
I knew it, man. I don't know either. Now I'm joking. That's the title. How should Africa undo the Berlin Conference? Who gets where? And, of course, what is the benefit behind it? And the comments on things that were spoken of prior. It's like closing remarks.
Oh. Get back to me on that.
Well, I can't because it's closing remarks. But, all right. Anyway, your Bitcoin thing, right? All right, Afrimac, you can finish this off, or maybe I'll finish off, but yeah, let us know what is that, since you actually advocated the solution, how should Africa undo the Berlin Conference, who gets where, and why is that? What do you want to tell the people before we exit?
I think we should avoid being reactionary and avoid taking down certain institutions and structures that could be used to our advantage, but at the same time keep in mind that we will never be liberated as long as we are following philosophies and partaking in idolizing, pedestalizing systems that were created by our adversary. Well, it's just never going to happen, so we have to be African-centered.
Well, all right, let me ask you this, though. So what can African people do today? What can somebody listening right now, what should they do today if they're really trying to transform, like the fate of Africa? What do you see? And anybody else, if you want to say something, just unmute and let us know. But African, what do you think we should? What do you
good old grassroots organization and communication and traveling is good. Anything that can be done to spread wealth and increase the commerce between Africa and the diaspora is a positive thing. So those little things, everyone doing those little things is what it's going to take to place us in the right direction.
All right. And anybody else have anything else? I want to say this. While I personally, I agree with the unitary model. Personally, I would advocate for a super state in Africa. Forget the borders. Obviously, that's a little hush-hush, but I would advocate for a super state. But prior to that, I believe that every African should participate in community building, going somewhere on the continent and building up a community, and hopefully that community can become a city. Hopefully that city can become a state. Hopefully that state can become a superpower. But really, I want us to grow and network and build up and develop ourselves almost organically. Of course, that's not too realistic. You have to have. You're going to come against the resistance of other communities, the resistance of other cities, the resistance of states, the resistance of nations, and the resistance of the globe. But I believe that we definitely, have to do something in order to transform our communities, or in order to transform our continent. And if nothing else, community building is probably the most helpful and healthy ways to go about it. If anybody else has anything to say about that, speak now or forever hold your peace. Otherwise, we're gonna sign out. And thanks everybody for participating. I see IAmBlackEveryDay had to leave, and I don't blame him. But thanks Zane, thank you Sho Makaifa, thank you Machiavelli, and of course thank you Afrimac. This has been the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio. Thanks to all the listeners and everybody who shares the video. Machiavelli, somebody in the chat, actually, Nchaka, was saying that I should be asking for donations. So my Cash App, no, I'm joking. But, you already know my Cash App. No, I'm joking. But seriously, thanks everybody for joining. This is the Pro-Black Perspective, and let's get liberated. All right, Shemi Hotep. Oh, wait, I pressed the wrong thing. What's the button I'm supposed to use?